ほう、どうやらだいぶ暇を持て余してるみたいだね。なら節と茶でもどうだい？仕事があるのにあえてそれをサボるとは気に入った。さて、仕事は全て終えた。あとのことは
心配いらないよ。私に任せて。心配いらないよ。私に任せて。邪魔をしないで。来たよ。油断せず行こう。心配いらないよ。私に任せて。ここ敵や邪魔をしないで。来たよ。油断せず行こう。心配いらないよ。私に任せて。ここ敵や邪魔をしないで。来たよ。油断せず行こう。
What's up, man? I'm recovering from playing Roll Slop. I tried Elden Ring Night Rain and really did not like it. Well, it's okay, I guess. With the mod, it's okay, but it's still just so much worse than Team Ninja stuff. It was starting to piss me off, so I'm done with it for tonight. I'm glad I tried it. You can read my rant in my Discord. I'm glad I tried it. People told me I might like it. I'm like, well, I don't completely hate it, but I don't love it either. There are other roguelikes I'd rather play than that game. It's just... the character's just so unresponsive. It's fun in small doses, I guess, but... yeah. I'm glad I didn't stream that on main. Have, people coming in here and telling me I need to get good. It's like, well, if I don't like the game, I'm not going to bother getting good at it. I get good at games I enjoy. If I'm not enjoying it, I don't really care to do that. I don't know. I don't think I'm ever gonna stream that on main anytime soon. If I do, it'll be in my Discord. Yeah, it's just like the character is just so unresponsive. It's like you get stuck in hit stun like forever, and then they like don't stagger. You do like a big attack and they just walk through it. It just doesn't feel good. And I'm sure playing it with friends is way more interesting. I got a couple hours out of it. If I don't really play it anymore, I'm not really too worried about it. Spent money on worse things. Just... I was hoping the mod would make me like it a bit more, but it does help. But the core mechanics are still the same. Now no one can tell me I need to play FromSoft games. Tried to be open-minded with it, but I really just wasn't having any fun. Every now and then it was fun. Team Ninja is so much better at making those games than they are. They're exponentially better. FromSoft gets carried too hard by people that don't play like actual good games like that. Kazan was 1,000 times better than that game for sure. Combat was much better. There was an actual moveset. I thought it was way better than what I played of Night Rain. It doesn't even come close. But you know, Kazan and Neo don't have co-op on that level, so I understand why people like it, but combat was just triggering me. I think it was time to move on. At least give it a break for tonight. I don't like being right about, like, not wanting to try games because I think I won't like them, but I think that was a good example of knowing exactly what I like, what I don't like. Maybe in 10 years they'll catch up to their competitors and make actual good responsive combat and a character that doesn't take a fiscal year to do everything while all the enemies are like completely coped out all the time. That's my problem with it. It's like the enemies are all like on steroids or something. or like cocaine or both, and then like your character, even with the mod, still takes forever to do anything, and you get stuck in hit stun for like a fiscal year. It is just aggravating to play. I really don't get why people like that kind of combat. Well, if I do a big move, like, it should stagger them like every time. Not have them just like kind of no-sell it. That's probably a big reason why I'm not really liking it as much as I thought I would. That shit always grinds my gears in any game. It just gets to the point where you kind of know what you like. And, you know, you might step out of your comfort zone, and sometimes you can be surprised. It's good to try new things sometimes, but you definitely get to a point in your life where it's like, these are the things I enjoy. I guess with games it's a lot harder than like movies or books or something, because they're like way more expensive. They're also like a much bigger time investment as well. You know, the meme of the game gets better, gets great 50 hours in. It's like, you know, you could watch like tons of movies in that time. I definitely kind of have a little bit of a pet peeve when people do that, though, where they say, you know, the game gets better 30 hours in. I'm like, I don't know if I really want to play a game for 30 hours for the chance of me liking it. You know, if I don't like it in the first couple hours, I'm more likely to flush it, or like find a mod, or just flush it entirely. Problem with games as well, trying things you don't normally like, even if like, you know, you're a rich content creator or you're well off in some other way. Well, it's like, you really want to spend all that time on something you might not like. I mean, for me, it's a bit of both. I am, like, in poverty. I'm impoverished, but a lot of it is just the time. No, it's good that people value different things. I just kind of get annoyed with when people will say that, anything that's faster than a FromSoft game is mindless button mashing. Like, just because something's fast doesn't mean it's easy. The character, like, actually responds. You know, the difficulty is in other aspects of the game's design, not, like, the enemies are all on, like, performance-enhancing drugs, and your character is, like, an obese smoker in comparison. That's, like, the main thing that makes it difficult. Not like the game actually being hard. You just gotta ignore people like that, though. It's not like Ninja Gaiden 4 being fast makes it easy. That is definitely not the case, right? Play that game and button mash, you're gonna get killed. Even on normal. Like, you're not gonna get far. You have a wealth of options, and you have to use them properly and interact with the enemies properly. Just because your character is nimble and responsive doesn't automatically make the game easy. That's whatever, man. I'm glad I tried it, though. I'm glad I tried it. I'll still play it. Probably in my Discord, but I don't think I'll be streaming it on main. I really don't think I will be. I think it's best I don't. I have fun with it sometimes. Other times it really triggers me. There's more than one string, yeah, and your character is responsive, they don't like that either. It's like, well, why don't you like that? challenge can come from different things, not just adapting to your character being ill-equipped to fight poked out enemies. Whatever, man. People can like what they like. Definitely is good to try things out of your comfort zone every now and then, but like I said, even if the money's not an issue, the time often is. I think the interesting thing about Ninja Gaiden is it also kind of has that problem too. In some ways, you take way too much damage on Master Ninja. You get killed in like 2 hits, and you can't cancel out of things you should be able to. It doesn't help that, like, dying in that game takes so long. It takes so long to, like, to respawn in that game, and that's, like, one of the biggest things that makes it frustrating to play on a high difficulty. Like, I'm definitely capable of doing Master Ninja. I mean, I was pretty decent at the game. I picked it up pretty quick. The problem was dying. It takes, like, 30 seconds to get back. And then you die in 2 hits again. Like, I just fun. You know, if the Neo games perfected this, right? You know, you die to BS. You die to BS, or, you know, you make the wrong decision or something, but you can get back in quick. The problem with Ninja Gaiden 4 is how much damage you do compared to, like, how long it takes to load is really messed up. That's my main criticism of that game. The fact that they were, like, so proud of themselves for having animation canceling, but it only works on some things, I think feels very awkward. I think with how cracked out the enemies are in that game, you should be able to cancel out of everything. The fact that you can, coupled with playing on the harder difficulties and getting, like, 2 shot, and then having, like, 30 seconds to get back into gameplay. That's immensely frustrating. I really don't know why that game takes so long to load. I thought we were supposed to abolish load times, but that has not been the case for sure. Games are taking longer and longer to load. I'm like, why does it take so long to load something that's already in the memory? I feel like that's something that people underestimate with, like, difficult games. How quick can you get back in? The longer it takes, the more frustrated you're gonna get. Yeah, difficult games definitely need to get you back into the game quicker. None of this, it takes a fiscal year to get back in. Like, that completely kills that kind of frustrating by nature game style. It really kills it for me. I've seen people that, like, you know, gave the game a fair chance and they actually like it. Pretty much everybody says that about Ninja Gaiden 4 is the respawn time and how much damage you take are really out of whack, along with inability to cancel things. It's not as bad as the old games, where, like, pretty much anything that wasn't shuriken cancelable or didn't leave you safe was you could never use it. It's not quite that bad, but it does still have that problem in some ways. That's kind of weird. Like, if I'm gonna get two-shot by everything, I kind of expect to be able to, like, cancel out of everything. That's kind of how games like this are designed. You know, you can go down really quick, but you know, your character is responsive. If you get hit, it's your fault. It's not like, you know, Night Rain, where the character will just stand there and not cancel out, and you're fighting stuff that doesn't stagger. Ninja Gaiden 4 is definitely not perfect. I thought it was a great game, but I'm hoping with the DLC, they'll lighten up on some of the stiffness in the combat. It feels very awkward. Yeah, it's a crapshoot if a difficult by nature game actually lets you respawn quick. But I've seen many people, I'm sure some of them probably play Souls games as well too. I've seen many people call out NG4 for how long it takes to respawn. Like, yeah, it's kind of like going against arcade philosophy, right? Arcade games were hard by nature because they were trying to make money, but you could get back in like instantly. You put another credit in, you can get back in instantly. I feel like a lot of these difficult games are kind of missing that. It's weird how the arcade games, which are literal microtransactions, understood that, but $70 games don't. Easiest way to reduce frustration, if you're trying to make an intentionally hard game, is to let you respawn quickly. If you spend more time waiting for it to load than you do playing, that's bad. You don't want that. Which is why, whenever anybody complains about that in that game, I wholeheartedly agree. Super Meat Boy is also a game that perfected this philosophy, where it's basically you know, the game is frustrating, it would piss off a saint. The difference is that by the time that you realize that you die, you've already respawned. And that's what made that game so addictive. like, Meat Boy explodes and then he's already at the beginning of the level in like half a second. That is the only thing that made that game work. If it was Ninja Gaiden 4 respawn times, like, nobody would have played that game. The Meat Boy developers understood how to reduce frustration like that. I think some developers think that if you go back in too quick, you won't learn anything. I'm of the party of thought that, yeah, there is some truth to that, but I feel like ideally you should give people the agency. You know, if they keep want to bash their head against a boss and not pay attention, you know, that's on them. You should be able to get back in quick. We'll see what the DLC does for that game. Yeah, games with like long-ass respawn times that are trying to be difficult, those are the ones I spend like less time on. Rich bosses. Oh, those are the best bosses. As always, the best boss is guy with sword. Any deviation from that is often worse. I don't know, most of the bosses in Ninja Gaiden 4 are okay. I mean, considering that series has almost always had mostly trash bosses, like RNG hit stun, and not really having any kind of rules that they follow, I think that the bosses were pretty good. But, you know, you put a Virgil-type boss in the game, and they're always going to be the best one.
一応無駄なあがきせっかくはいい邪魔をしないでオモピースの秩序怪我させはしない今は永遠に刻む状況を理解していないようですね。この調子で行こう。無駄なあがきここ状況を理解していないようですね。この剣で今は切り開く今は永遠に刻む邪魔をしないで
The fact that they even have any kind of hit stun rule at all is pretty good. That's better than usual, right? Usually it's Ninja Gaiden games that just kind of random. There isn't any kind of formula to when they get hit, when they take hit stun. Yeah, I don't really care for the parry mechanic. It never feels like I get it intentionally. It feels like it just happens at random. I think they wanted to make it harder than like DMC Reboot or like DMC 5, where it's a little bit too easy. But I think they pushed it too far in the other direction. It often feels like it just happens at random, especially because your attacks have so few active frames. And it doesn't seem like the risk to reward is really there. It kind of feels like if you do it, it doesn't feel satisfying. It's kind of like X Factor in Marvel 3, you know, it doesn't feel satisfying to get it, because I just don't feel like I get it. I get it from my own, like, effort. It feels like it just happens. I don't really like that. I think the just dodge is fine. Just guard is fine. But like the parry where you have to attack when they attack kind of doesn't really feel that great. You know, in Reboot, there were certain things that would have like really long active frames. So you would just end up spamming that all the time. But at least it was consistent. It feels like in Ninja Gaiden 4, like the bosses and stuff, like they have low active frames and so do you. So sometimes it feels like you just can't do it consistently unless you like stand there and grind the boss, but the problem with that is it takes so long to load. It takes so long to load that you don't want to do that. I really do think that the loading the respawn in that game is like one of its biggest flaws. The combat has flaws, but the biggest problem is like practicing is such a pain because of how long it takes to respawn. Like if they fix that, it would be a lot less frustrating to give that game, you know, time to really get proficient at it. But the way it is now, it definitely, it would frustrate a saint. I don't know how they didn't take a hint from Team Ninja and make it so, you know, like the moment that you die, you can respawn. That would help that game immensely. Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. That way it would feel more controlled instead of the way it feels like where actually going for it just doesn't feel worth it. But when you get it, the problem is when you get it, you don't feel like you earned it. It feels like it just kind of happens at random. I don't really think that's a good way to do it either. It's like X Factor in Marvel 3, I always thought was kind of a trash comeback mechanic because it just made you so overpowered. And like, even if they're about to OCV you, you could just pop X Factor level 3 and you hit them like once and they're dead. I never really felt like it was satisfying because it kind of just felt like it's random. It didn't feel like, okay, you know, maybe the comeback mechanic allowed me to win, but I had to work for it harder, and it didn't feel random, actually earned. And, Parries and Ninja Gaiden 4 are the way they are right now are kind of like that. If it was more like Reboot and DMC 5, but maybe like a little bit harder to pull off, I think that would actually be a lot better. It's also just like you don't have a lot of moves that have really long active frames, so that's obviously gonna make it more difficult too. In Reboot, you can just push like Prop Shredder with the scythe and parry like anything, and some people didn't like that. I definitely agree that like maybe they could have nerfed the active frames on it a little bit, but it did still feel good to learn, and it didn't feel random. That's a hard thing to balance. Any kind of system where you get rewarded for stopping an attack with your own attack, like the balance can really get out of whack if your player character has moves that have long active frames, because basically you just throw that out and the attack is going to clash. There's not really any risk. Ninja Gaiden 4 is kind of like the risk is high and the reward is high, but it's also like a game where you're not meant to tank hits unless you're spamming items, so I don't think that really works well either. Feels like that game's parrying. I never really used the parrying that much in that game. Yeah, the old way of doing it was better. The problem with what you're mentioning is that in those old Ninja Gaiden games, the bosses and enemies just staggered at random, so that was the problem with that method, but like, if it was like, you know, when you do like a, you know, a red counter, and it gave you guaranteed hit stun, I could see that working. It felt like the counter wasn't really worth using on anything but basic enemies, which isn't entirely a bad thing, because much like any other beat-em-up style game, you know, 90% of it is fighting trash mobs. You fight bosses way less, but that was the problem with how it was designed in those games. It's just the bosses had gotcha pull hit stun and just kind of walk out of it. It felt unrewarding for a different reason. It wasn't because the mechanic was bad or poorly designed. It was the bosses being poorly designed. Kind of made it snowball into, it's like, well, I parry and they don't stagger. I get hit anyway. It's like, well, why would I ever want to do that? It's really hard to balance that, though. That's why most games just have, like, you know, adjust guard, parry, instead of attack when they attack, because it's just very hard to balance. It's either too good or it's useless. There's, like, no in-between. Like, in the DMC reboot, it was way too easy to do. And like I said, it was nice that it was consistent, but, you know, unless you're challenging yourself, you know, you just did prop shredder, and you parried, like, every single time. Granted, it was still an advanced technique. I'm sure most of the people that played that game never even did it intentionally once, but something like that, but a little bit more challenging to do, I think would be a good middle ground. Like, you can't just throw out something that has like a second of active frames and then just parry everything with no effort. But you still have to time it, and the timing isn't like super strict, so going for it actually makes sense. Bayonetta 2 kind of had a different problem. The problem with that game was the humanoid bosses were trash, because the only time you could ever hit them was in Witch Time. It was completely different from the first game, where you didn't need to have Witch Time. But in that game, they forced you to do it. Those bosses were pretty poorly designed. They had a lot of the same problems that Ninja Gaiden bosses have. It's like there's one way to fight them, basically. You have to spam Witch Time. And the Witch Time only lasted, like, on bosses, especially on the harder difficulties, it lasted, like, barely a second. Humanoid bosses in that game don't get enough flack. No, the basic enemies in Bayo 2, basically they just walked out of combos. They would like parry it. They really that game, Bayonetta 2, definitely is like where they wanted you to play that game a specific way, and if you wanted to style play, you got punished for it. The only way you could combo in that game is if you had the Bracelet of Time. The Bracelet of Time, if you put it on, and you turned on Witch Time for like a second, if I remember correctly, they would not counter. The human bosses were a different problem. The human bosses were... You literally did design them to be fought without Witch Time, which is why on Infinite Climax you still have Witch Time. They're really poorly designed. The game basically just wants you to spam Umbran Climax, which most people are fine with, so they didn't mind it, but I don't know. I don't like when a genre literally based around the amount of options and different ways that you can approach the fights shoehorns you into playing one way. Like, you can't play any other way. I think that is what made that game have a significantly shorter high-level gameplay lifespan than 1 did. People still find stuff in 1 and they still play it, but then like 2 is kind of devoid of that, mostly because of the way it was designed. If you just want to play the way that they want you to, the game is completely fine, but if you come from spending minimum a couple dozen hours in the first game and playing the game your own way, it really doesn't let you do that. How much that is a problem really depends on why you like to play those kinds of games, you know, just like the graphics and the set pieces, and you won't care, but I think Bayonetta 3 mechanics were better, I'd say. Main thing I didn't like is Bayonetta by herself does crap damage, so they do want you to spam the demons, but the demons are way more interesting to use still than Umbran Climax. Because Umbran Climax was basically just a super that you popped and it did crazy damage, and the whole game was balanced around using it, so you didn't use it, you felt like you got punished. I didn't think that was good either. The Bayo 2 enemies will tech out of combos unless they're in Witch Time. That's why, like, you want to style play in that game, you need to unlock the Bracelet of Time, because that will allow you to combo them. Shouldn't have to do that, though. They took the easy way out. They're balancing. The mechanic would have been better if it didn't feel like Bayonetta herself was weak. That was the main problem I had with it. Other than that, I didn't mind it at all, and it definitely was way more interactive. It was more interactive than Umbran Climax, which just wasn't very fun to use. It was kind of just a buff that made you mash buttons. You mashed buttons and killed everything, which, you know, I think anybody would be lying if they said that wasn't fun sometimes, but, like, having the whole game be designed around that gets old fast. There's actually some really cool stuff you can do with the Demon Slave mechanic, like the positioning and stuff. I think is actually really creative. The fact that you can, like, put them out and then do something else. The fact that it allows you to stagger big enemies is really cool, too. I thought that that was a really awesome, like, original mechanic. It's just if you didn't like that mechanic, you didn't do any damage. It's kind of the same problem as Bayo 2, but not anywhere near as bad. I'd argue Transformations, the Demon Slave was more interesting than Kingdom Hearts Transformations. They felt kind of tacked on in some ways. Demon Slave is actually a pretty strategic mechanic that you can use. It's mostly just that if you don't like to engage with it, everything takes like 10 times longer to kill. which of course in itself is not very good. It's hard to balance powerful mechanics like that, because it feels like it's either useless or too good. And there's like no middle ground. Neo 2 kind of had the same problem, right? The yokai shift. Yokai shift is so much worse than Living Weapon, because Living Weapon in Neo 1 was OP, and it took like no skill to use and kind of diluted the otherwise great combat. But when they made Neo 2, they were too scared of making something that OP. So like, the playstyle that revolves around yokai shift was basically impossible. It kind of felt like more of a comeback mechanic. You know, you could pop it if you knew it was going to kill a boss, but like, building your whole character around it was like never once viable, because they nerfed it so much. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. You have like transformations or like really powerful mechanics like that. It's so hard to balance. It's like BO2 Umbran Climax or DMC parry with using the attacks that have active frames and just spamming it is like too powerful. Or it's like Yokai Shift where, you know, it's not very useful. It can come in and clutch, but you couldn't build your character around it. Some people didn't like that. Neo 2 is way better balanced than 1. But I feel like they could have left a little power in Yokai Shift. It's objectively worse. It'll be interesting to see how Living Artifact is going to be in 3. Like, is it going to be like Yokai Shift, where, you know, if the boss is almost dead, you're essentially popping a different, an extra temporary health bar, and you just try to, or is it going to be like Living Weapon, where you can build around it and just annihilate anything? Probably the latter, going by Neo 2's balancing. Well, Neo 2 it's the same problem as every other game with loot, in that there's too much of it. I really hope that Neo 3 has a loot filter. I think that would really help, because like all the action RPGs right now, like Last Epoch has a loot filter, right? So you can basically program the game to only show you things that are actually useful to you. Like if you're looking for a specific weapon or a piece of gear or weapon that has a certain thing on it, you know, if you're looking for attack speed or HP up or something, like it will only show you that, right? The other stuff is still there, but it helps to reduce the clutter. I definitely think that's like the #1 thing that they should do, is have a loot filter. You know, if you're trying to play melee, you know, don't give you, like, mage stuff, or you're looking for fast weapons, just, you know, be able to disable all the slow weapons and vice versa. That would definitely help. Because, that's one of the things people can't stand about Diablo 4, is that there's no loot filter. So the ground is cluttered with stuff, and it's too difficult to tell if something's worth picking up, and it kills the pacing of the game. I never thought that Neo 2 really had that problem. It's overwhelming at first. The thing that makes it work is that you can get rid of it quickly. You know, you can get rid of it in a couple button presses. That's the only thing that makes it work, but yeah, I don't disagree with you. If they just had a loot filter, I think it would be a lot easier to manage. Last Epoch is like unplayable without the loot filter. People basically just, they download pre-made loot filters. You know, if you want to play a rogue or something, you just simply you choose a rogue loot filter, so like all the other stuff, you can't see it. That really helps a lot. Loot filters for loot games should be the standard. It's pretty crazy that Diablo 4 doesn't have it. That game is definitely what you're mentioning. Just a bunch of junk on the ground and you can't tell what it is. Well, eventually it just gets to the point where you know what to pick up. Yeah, your complaint is valid. It's exactly how Diablo 4 is right now. They don't have a loot filter, so the ground is just constantly cluttered with junk, and you can't... Problem with Diablo 4 compared to Neo is it's a lot easier to tell in the Neo game whether something is good just from looking at it, whereas in Diablo 4 it's a lot harder. Well, loot games should basically, it should be the standard to have a filter. It's like only pick up the things you want, not, you know, constantly stare at items. You know, you're not like actually playing the game. Like, that actually really bothers me. I'm not a fan of that at all. Team Ninja games do have too much loot, but one of the things they're really good at that people don't mention, because they mostly talk about the combat, is the fact that you can get rid of it quick. That actually makes a huge difference. Like, they made that Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 game, and that game had the problem of dropping too much loot. The loot was also very boring, and then also it took forever to get rid of it. So, looking at the loot and playing. It was really good that they... That was like the only game they had that had garbage. Garbage loot management. Loot in that game was like the worst loot I've ever seen. You only get rid of like 10 of them at a time, and none of them are interesting. There wasn't any kind of build. I mean, it really was just, you know, 2% more damage. But for some reason, you couldn't get rid of them quick. If you had like 1,000 of them, you could only get rid of 10 of them at a time. It's like, that's really crucial for a loot game. I think you can get by without a loot filter, if you can get rid of it quickly, and you get like good resources for dismantling it. But if you can't get rid of it quickly, it completely kills that kind of game for me. That's why Ultimate Alliance 3 was torture to play after a while. The loot was boring in the first place, and then like, you know, they force you to interact with it because it had like a really low limit on how many you could carry. Yeah, if you play the game more, you'll get used to it. You get pretty substantial rewards for dismantling. But yeah, I'd be inclined to agree. I hope that the full game will have a loot filter. It's like, you know, you only want like ninja-style items, or you only want, you know, samurai style, or you want like loot that has a specific type. That would help a ton. only need 5 more pulls. Alright, we'll go ahead and finish that up.
何でも言って。
Yeah, Neo 3 should be really solid. I'm very excited for it. I think it's gonna be like the best action RPG. The games do take a bunch of patches to be like really polished though, so be prepared for that. If I get one more copy, can Triple S. Let's go get her functor. Yeah, 3 should be pretty good. Let's hope the PC port is good. That's my main worry. I definitely wish it was not open world, but it seemed fine. When I played a bit at my neighbor's house, seemed alright. BO3 is kind of just a strange game. There's lots of really good things about it, but it goes out of its way to like make you not want to play it. It's the same problem as Wonderful 101. I heard a rumor that there's supposed to be like a Switch 2 upgrade of that game. I'll supposedly have like more stuff and upscaling and everything. I heard that a while back. I don't know if it's true, but I think that game really needs it. It is painful to play for like, you know, hardcore purposes, because the campaign is full of so much trashy mini-games instead of like actually just fighting. So yeah, Wonderful 101. That's exactly how that game is. Combat in that game is cool if you give it a chance, but so much of the game is not doing that. It's doing mini-games and stuff, which, as always, really gets in the way. No. What are you guys' expectations for the Game Awards? I don't expect anything. I've seen some of the rumors about stuff that's coming out, and none of it really interests me. Usually, usually the stuff that they announce that I'm interested in is the not really AAA stuff most of the time, so I'll see how I feel.
バイパー行きまーす。ありがとうございます。私のテクニック気に入ってもらえると嬉しいです。いただき。捕まえた。もう言葉はいりませんね。助かります。ガブッと。ありがとうございます。その表情息がぴったり合わせていきましょう。その
Get one shot, huh? Yeah, they definitely made this harder. It's one shot. Oh, I still got some pulls. Let me see, how much more did I need for 5? Let me see here. Not here, it's here. Oh, I need 5 more, so I need 400 more crystals. I should have enough in here to do that. Let's just go ahead and do the story, get this done quicker. Got to do that anyway. Hopefully it doesn't make me play as any shit characters. No. Already, shit character. Can't play who I want. Bane. Bane of the story mode. they take your team away, they make you play as somebody else and have a bunch of cutscenes. Walk slow.
守る。ランプ大丈夫？よかった。誓いを果たすために私は戦うよ。はっ、来たよ。油断せず行く。邪魔をしないで。
Scripted boss, like, has so much more health than the unscripted ones, where you can use who you want. Really weird thing about this game. It's like your character doesn't feel strong. I guess partially because support characters in this game actually give a ton of, like, buffs. So when you don't have them, it's definitely noticeable. Let me see here. I only need like 140 more, huh? Kind of want to conserve my stamina. Where's a quick place to get 140 more? Let's get this done. I could probably do the side mode. I think I've kind of exhausted everything else. Yeah, I don't have any more pots, so I should probably get it some other way. And go in here and do this mini game. You only need 120. Should be enough. It's just, this is kind of not fun. Hopefully, give me the crystals quick. That should finish it up here. Like one more objective should be 120. Just do like one more story, I guess. I think that's enough right there. Let's get out of this shit. Not as rewarding as the last one, but a lot less time-consuming. The minigame is actually kind of fun. The last one wasn't. Last one wasn't very fun. I kind of wasn't feeling it. Let's pick up 5 of these. Basically done with the event. Give me a free copy. Come on, no shit. Give me a free copy. It took a really long time to load. It's like thinking about giving me a good one, but no. No, deep troll. Deep troll. Alright, well there's 200. There we go, event cleared. That was pretty painless. So let's get this JoJo chick her weapon. There we go. Nice. All decked out now. I'll transcend it once, why not? Alright, now to get Lin Yu's weapon. There we go. That's pretty good progress for today. It's, both of them with their functor weapon. Like one more copy to get her a triple S. This character is busted. And then I'll switch to triple S. He needs 30 more fragments. Alright, well that's gonna do it for now, folks. That's all I really wanted to do today. I have to help a friend move in the morning, so no ass o'clock streams or Discord calls tonight. If I get up early enough and there's time, I'll probably hop on before I go. But otherwise, I will be on for the Game Awards tomorrow. So expect me around 4 o'clock. I'll probably get on early, play some games, and then watch the Game Awards. And then I have to go feed the cats immediately after. So if there's going to be any kind of shadow drops, I won't be able to play it until I come back. But yeah, that was pretty fruitful. Unfortunately, I didn't get a free extra copy. I hit hard pity, but one more is very doable before the event ends, especially because it's going to last. The patch is going to last through another paycheck, so I can definitely get it. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the morning, or worst case scenario, the afternoon. Good night.